y'all, and welcome back to my channel. And welcome to my spring cleaning anti-haul. As in, I'm cleaning out all the things that I don't want to buy. And I will start this off with saying that I will admit there are a couple things on this list that y'all are gonna hear and you're gonna see that are gonna get me just a little bit heated. Y'all know that your girl couldn't give two flying wahonkies about what any of these companies think of me, so I feel like I'm gonna go on in and maybe tear a little bit of a new one. I've established the fact that I'm not gonna receive PR from any company, so we might as well just keep it going. I mean, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. So I've just got a nice little collection here, and I will say also that although we are past the whole holiday overzealous kerfuffle of those releases, I was doing a lot of anti-hauling, and I'm still going to be doing a lot of anti-hauling because going into this year, I'm going to be taking a very much less consumerism is more sort of approach in my life. There are going to be those things that I want to review and everything like that, but for the majority of everything else, it's sort of a one big giant unnecessary. I don't have the real estate to purchase frivolous things. But all frivolity aside, let's just get into this and talk about all these wonderful, amazing things that I'm not going to be buying. Might as well start off with one that doesn't offend me. Trixie Mattel, who is one of my absolute favorite drag queens, has her own makeup line and is releasing like an 80s blue collection, which I absolutely adore and appreciate the investment in that whole campy look. You know, if you've seen what Trixie looks like, she is a very campy, out there drag queen, and then to do this whole like 1980s blue eyeshadow. You shouldn't wear blue eyeshadow. It's whatever. I feel like that is a really good move. It's really solid for her brand, and it's something that really lends itself to being a release from a drag queen's makeup brand. It just works really well. But with that being said, I don't really need any of the things that she's selling. I already have my blue eyeshadows that I don't use, or I use very infrequently. Blue isn't one of the colors that I'm always using. You know, if she'd release something green, maybe we would have had a different story. But for my part and my whatever, I saw it. I appreciated the attention to what it was. I appreciated the aesthetic. I thought it was really funny and really played to who she was as a person and really represented her within her company. But with that being said, it's absolutely nothing that I need and something that I don't need it and I'm not gonna buy it. Another sort of, how shall we say, blip on the radar. I figured we'd start out nice and neutral. You know, we weren't gonna get into the really seedy, intense stuff until later. So, up for reference is the new, not sure when new is going to be when this comes out, the Skin Perfecting foundation from KVD. It's in this cute little compact I was reading on. It's like free of this and free of that and hypoallergenic packaging and packaging that's biodegradable. And I'm like, okay, all right, but is the stuff good? Y'all know that your girl knows what she likes when it comes to foundation. I use like the same 4, maybe 5 max, and I don't really tend to kind of go out of my comfort zone. I know what I like, I know what I look for, and I've never really been someone who's really enjoyed compact foundations. I've tried them, have never found one that's like, yes, this is perfect. This is amazing. And because I have so many foundations already that I know and love that I'm using up, I don't really feel inclined to try out this one. KVD historically has never really had foundations that worked for me, kind of the same with Urban Decay. Yeah, her one, that first foundation that she came out with, that was great for cosplay, that was great for like photo shoots, but for a realistic everyday to day, No, 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 no. It was just a bit too intense, a bit too high coverage for just like a nice, natural, glowy, healthy look. And then they had the portrait foundation. One of y'all bought that for me. It was okay. You know, it wasn't anything that would then make me think, oh, this is a new foundation release. I should try this out. They say it's like light to medium matte coverage. It's good for normal to dry skins. I'm just not feeling it. Kind of foundation is one of those things that when they get released, very rarely do I go out and just buy it on the first whatever. I need to see and hear and read reviews. I go on and I look for, all right, super dry skin, trying out this foundation. And if it sounds like it's going to be good, then maybe I'll buy it. This is the kind of thing that I would go in and be like, hey, can I get a sample? Even though I don't think they're doing samples right now. But definitely not a foundation that I would just think off and be like, yes, I'm going to buy that and I'm going to use it and it's going to be the most amazing end-all be-all thing. I have foundations. I don't need to be trying no cream compact situation, you know? But if any of y'all had it and any of y'all have tried it, definitely let us know down below how it is. All right. Might as well talk about something that's gonna get me a little bit what? I don't even know what this is called. I don't even care. I think it's exclusive to somewhere, but that doesn't make it any better. Does it make it okay? Becca, that ever so revolutionary and creative brand, has decided to release another face palette. And not only have they decided to release another face palette, they've decided to release another face palette that looks like every other face palette they've released for the past 4 years. I shiz you not. Looking at this thing, I'm like, okay, are those all the units left over of the Becca X Chrissy Teigen collaboration? Because that's exactly what this looks like. You've got like the main blush thing, you've got the highlighter, you've got it's just the same thing without the fancy Chrissy Teigen embossing. I mean, y'all, I took one look at this on Trend Mood's page and I'm like, they're really out here trying this. They're really doing this. They just don't even care anymore because at this point, when you've had the Jaclyn Hill blush palette, we had the Après Ski Glow, we had the Becca one, I mean not the Becca one, we had the Chrissy Teigen, and then you've got this. There is literally nothing about this. There is nothing new brought to the game, not just from a makeup standpoint, but from a Becca standpoint. They've already done this. They've done this 5 times. And for them trying to sell it to us as something new is a little bit insulting. I'm like, we're not children. We're not dumb. We've seen the sort of stuff that you've done before. Maybe try a different shade of blush. Maybe do a different kind of highlighter, but it's just the same thing. And maybe it's just a feint, a little hint, a titchy bit different. But a titchy bit different does not a good face palette make. I mean, it is just seriously wash, rinse, repeat. Is it just me? Is anyone else seeing this? Like, I feel like instead of being an inconsistent brand, Becca's starting to be a little too consistent because they keep releasing the same shiz over and over again. I had like 3 different Becca palettes and I decluttered most of them because they were all the same. I'd swatch the colors and be like, oh yeah, that's the same blush. That is the same blush. They just have a massive amount of these particular shades. I don't know why, what kind of stock they bought, but for some reason, they cannot sell enough of these particular shades. It's just the same thing over and over and over and over again. And I would be okay. Well, no. My frustration lies in the fact that they're okay with this. That they're like, all right, mediocrity, we might as well just go the whole way. Because I've seen this. I mean, is like I said, is it just me? Because looking at this, I'm like, it is the same thing. There is nothing, absolutely nothing innovative, new, or interesting. It is just another basic Becca face palette. If you're a person who collects the Becca face palettes, which I used to do, don't buy this. You got it. There's only so many of the same shade we can have before it becomes absurdly redundant. And I'm pretty sure this is exclusive to one particular place. I mean, maybe that's a good thing, because I feel like if this came to Sephora and Ulta, it would get the shiz roasted out of it. I mean, if it had come to Sephora and Ulta, I would have been like, wait, this is going to come to Sephora, this is going to come to Ulta, couple of months, it'll be on sale. Because all the people that didn't buy the Becca X Chrissy Teigen one aren't going to buy this because it's the exact same thing. And I know I'm going to have some people down below, well, it's not the exact same thing. It's got some different tones and some different colors. Okay, maybe it's not the exact same thing, but it is at least 98% the same situation as the past face palettes Becca has released. I feel like I come from a slight place of knowledge as someone who continuously purchased said Becca face palettes, and after a while they start looking awfully similar, and that was like 2 years ago. I just don't understand the rationale of this other than we've got this excess amount of product, we need to put it in something and sell it. It's just the exact same thing. The level of absurdity to this, I was just like, this is where we're at. This is the point we have reached within the oversaturation. It's like insanity. They keep doing the same things over and over and over again, hoping for a different result, but it's not gonna happen. I hate to break it to you. This isn't enough to shake the world. This isn't enough. This is bare minimum. Bare freaking minimum. Okay. A couple of y'all know that this was coming. A couple of y'all screenshotted and sent me messages and sent me whatevers. We're like, hey, it's your favorite thing. Beauty Blender, that fantastic mogul of mogul companies. We're like, hey, you want to know what the beauty community needs? It needs a swirly, swirly, different colored sponge. Specifically, the Dream Swirl sponge. You all know how I feel about this. You have heard this rant I don't know how many times. Probably just about every time they release a new color. And it's not just them. I was walking through Walmart and I saw Real Techniques and I was like, I had so much respect for you. I really did. You were above this. Because if there's anything that's going to get everybody's jollies on, it's a different colored sponge. It's going to break world records. It's going to shatter the earth beneath our feet because Beauty Blender deemed it appropriate to release a dreamy, swirly whirly sponge. I keep saying it, and I will say it until I die. I am so sick and tired of top makeup news releases being about a different colored Beauty Blender, about a different colored sponge. It used to be just Beauty Blender out here with their shenanigans, but then other companies were like, hey, we should do this too. I'm like, no, stop. Just give me straight, no, stop. Okay, all right, you did it. Y'all cannot fathom how much distaste I have for these colored sponges. I'm sure for some people, it brings them joy. It makes them so stinking happy, and that is fan-tucking-fastic. You keep doing you, boo-boo. We all get joy from different things, and so just because I don't like something and something gives me absolute agita, doesn't mean it's something that people can't love. It's just that for me, personally, I despise the thought of living in an era where the most exciting thing is a different colored sponge, where that is what is really changing the game. That's what's getting us excited. That's what the next level of evolution in makeup has become. I'm not saying we all need to be out here creating mustard and puce eyeshadow color stories, but I'm also saying maybe we should cut back some of those frivolous, unnecessary things that are released just for the sake of releasing something, and maybe focus on some more self-sustaining makeup that's actually going to make an impact and improve our overall makeup experience. But that's just me. I'm sure some people are out here so ready for the Dreamsicle Beauty Blender sponge. And I'm sure the people who are excited about that are the ones that have all the other colors that have been previously released. I mean, I just can't roll my eyes out of my head any more than I already have. It's a sponge. It's a different colored sponge, and we act like this is the thing that is going to absolutely change up the makeup game. And I'm just over here sitting here like, okay, We're not focusing on new formulas. We're not focusing on inclusivity. We're not focusing on other things. We're just putting all of our efforts into the release of a multi-swirled sponge. I just can't. Y'all know me too well because I had so many of y'all be like, hey, look at this. I feel like y'all are just like, y'all like posting it and being like, oh, she gonna get so mad. She gonna get so mad. I ended up not talking about it for the holiday anti-hauls, but It Cosmetics re-released those like heart and star shaped brushes, and I was like, this close to losing it, but we kept our cool. It was all right. So now we're here in the spring with sponges. All right, we've got the, I think, Hot Topic Blockbuster eyeshadow palette. I mean, did anybody look at this and think, yes, that is a beautiful color story. That is a color story I want to wear on my eyes every single day. I mean, if you did, that's fantastic, and you keep doing you, boo-boo. But for me, I looked at it and I was like, that's ugly. Oh, that's ugly. You got like the blue and the yellow and then all these weird like browns and kind of grungy. I hate, y'all know I hate this. I hate this so much. When companies, I don't care who, I don't care which one, but when companies take these things that are super popular and super kitschy, you know, like Blockbuster and like all the other licensing, like Hot Cheetos. And they said, people love this. People are lapping up, buying nostalgia left and right. Let's take this nostalgic image, slap it on an eyeshadow palette, and put some weird freaking random colors in it that were curated by someone who doesn't know how to curate an eyeshadow palette. It's like the people who were making this just did the Blockbuster palette, and then they got the old KVD person who used to curate her holiday palettes, and they got someone from Too Faced, and they said, all right, we want you two to work on this and curate this eyeshadow palette, and this is what we get. It's not pretty. It doesn't inspire me in any way. It is just another one of those stupid, this is nostalgic, like the Friends collection, like anything, you know, we just Sex in the City, just all of these kitschy, non-makeup related things that these companies are like, we can bank on this. We're going to take this thing that absolutely has nothing to do with makeup and we're going to put it in an eyeshadow palette because people are going to buy it because it's nostalgic. There is very little that gets me just as upset as seeing these stupid nostalgic license things because I love nostalgia. I'm a millennial. I'm out here buying things from my past that I couldn't buy then with money that I don't have. I am all about nostalgia and aesthetic. But I like it when it's executed well, and I'm so sick of all these things that are taken and just used. It's just pure, straight up marketing. As much as I love nostalgia and aesthetic, I am someone who loves well-formulated eyeshadow, well thought out color stories, you know? And when you take something like this, that's literally the Blockbuster thing, we've got some correlating colors that'll kind of, yeah, okay, I kind of see it relating. And then we're throwing a bunch of other things because there really isn't that much color inspiration you can get from blue, white, yellow, and black. There is simply only so much we can do, and they didn't even do it that well. If it is from Hot Topic is pretty notorious for creating very nostalgic. They did the Rugrats one that I think Jeffree Star reviewed. They've done a couple other ones that are these really like, people see it and they're like, oh, that's so cool, that's nostalgic, that's kitschy. But Hot Topic, let me tell you this, does not have the capital to make good eyeshadows. Trust me, I've tried them. And so when I see these, it literally just, maybe it's the adult in me, maybe I'm old, maybe I'm not hip or cool enough to understand this, but I see those things, and as someone who grew up in the Blockbuster era, it does nothing for me. I see it and I'm like, why are we settling for these subpar color stories and these nostalgia cash-grabbing products that only have just a semblance of makeup to make a makeup lover want to buy them? Like I said, I love nostalgia, I love aesthetic, but I like it when it's executed well, and I like it when it's paired with good, high quality makeup. I can tell you right now that that palette, for all its nostalgic whateverness, isn't going to be able to give me a beat this good. It's going to be dry. It's going to be patchy. It's going to be unpigmented. It would sit in my drawer and I'd be like, oh, but it's so nostalgic. I have to keep it because it's cute. We're cutting out the middleman. We're cutting out 2016 era Soraya, and we're not buying it. We're calling it out for the shiz that it is. This next one I think is kind of funny. It's from Viseart, brand I love, and I'll Be All palette, the Grand Pro 3. And they came out with this spring palette. I can assume it's spring, right? And I remember someone posting about it. I can't remember who it was. And they're like, oh, I love me a green eyeshadow. And y'all know that your girl loves a green eyeshadow. But looking at this, I'm like, oh, it's the one. And if you put your finger over that green eyeshadow, it is a slight, neutrally kind of peachy palette with a pop of green. We are no longer doing the pop of blue. It's now neutrals with a pop of green, which I admit I like a lot more than pop of blue. But if you're gonna tell me that you're buying this because you love green eyeshadow, I'm like, I'm gonna save you so much money. Just take that out and your eye is no longer drawn because you see that shade and you're like, oh, imagine all the wonderful things I could do with that green with all these other, take out the green. And the palette is no longer exciting. Like I said, I'm gonna save you so much money because historically, as I have seen, a lot of those palettes with the pop of this and the pop of that, that's exactly what it is. It's a normal palette that you already have that the company wants to add a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of something to excite you. So they take something like a green or a blue and stick it right there to make you focus, draw your eye to the most exciting part in the palette so you start thinking about all the things you could do with that shade when in reality it's one shade. If you want green, DM me, message me. I will tell you all about my absolute favorite green palettes, but please, I beg of you, do not buy this Viseart palette because you love green eyeshadow because it's literally one. Like, no! I love you, Viseart, but don't you do me dirty like that. Don't you give me this whatever color story and then stick a nice pretty green in it to make people think, oh, I don't have a green that looks like that. Because trust me, I've done that. I'm just kind of sort of over these tropes that we've seen within makeup releases where it's just like, oh, this is something that used to be funny and now it's like a problem. And it's a problem that I'm not going to be purchasing. It is not my thing in it. It's just a little green, just little. I love green, but you cover that shiz up. And I guarantee you already have these shades. Maybe they're not Viseart, but I'm out here gonna save you a whole bunch of bucks. Just cover it up and look at it that way. I guarantee. Okay, I don't guarantee. If there's someone whose this palette is their favorite end all be all whatever, that's great. I love it. I'm so happy for you. But I feel like if we stop thinking about it, we're not zoned in on that nice little hot little whatever. We can look at things a bit more objectively, and objectively, this is a soft, subtle, something neutral palette with a nice, springy, bright green in it, and I ain't buying it. So long as I'm upset, we might as well move on to the next item, which is a Colourpop edition. Y'all know how much I love and loathe that company, and after the ever so wonderful throes of the Colourpop X Animal Crossing, they were like, all right, we haven't collaborated with Disney in a while. What could we collaborate? What is a film that is going to translate ever so beautifully into makeup? And they decided that they were going to draw inspiration from Bambi and make a whole collection. I don't know about any of y'all, but for me, Bambi does not hold the fondest memories. Yes, I recall being slightly intrigued and funny with the whole Twitter pated and everything like that. I was like, oh, too young to understand it, but young enough to think it was funny. But probably a little bit more significant in my brain when it comes to Bambi is, you know, his mom getting her whatever's blown out. I don't necessarily look at that and think, ah, yes, eyeshadow material. And I understand that the whole movie overall isn't focused on that. It has a lot of beautiful, bright imagery. I absolutely love Flower, the skunk, in their whole, like, non-binary, non-gender conforming skunk self. I relate to that on a whole bunch of levels, but just because I relate to that doesn't mean I want a company, let alone Colourpop, to make a whole collection around it. I mean, like, could you imagine, like Bambi, it's Bambi today, and tomorrow it's going to be Colourpop X Fox and the Hound. I don't want that. I really, really don't. There's only so many things you can do, and like, Bambi. I don't understand it. Maybe I don't have the right mentality for it or something. I mean, y'all know that when it comes to Colourpop doing licensed releases, doing intellectual property releases, I lose it. They lose me on so many levels. Very rarely have they done a licensed or intellectual property collaboration that has been 110% true, spot on, represents the film or whatever material that they're using absolutely perfectly. 9 times out of 10 for me, it's a packaging party with necessary makeup components put into it because they've actually got to make it makeup for us to buy it, but the actual driving selling force isn't color story, isn't formulation. It's the fact that it's an adorable, cute, kitschy Disney collaboration with Bambi. I mean, yeah, I admit, I would be out here living for a powder blush named Flower. I would buy that shiz. But the majority of everything else, I've just grown so tired. I am weary of the Colourpop releases. I am just exhausted because there are only so many times I can roll my eyes until they roll right out of my head. I just can't with this company. Everything that they will, every other thing. It's gotten more than every other thing. Very rarely does Colourpop release something that actually gets my creative and artistic juices flowing. That sounded a little bit naughty. And seeing this is just sort of another nail in that coffin of my opinion of Colourpop, because I struggle so much because I love so many products by them. I love a lot of their blushes, their monochromatic palettes are some of my staples, and then they just keep re-releasing the same thing, not banking on, that is the frustration, the ultimate frustration, that at this point we are not banking on making fantastically formulated products, on making things that are innovative and no, we're banking on the marketability of the licensing stuff that we're using to sell subpar makeup. So it's not that I despise Bambi. It's not that I despise Animal Crossing or any of the other tens of thousands of hundreds collaborations that they've done just on a whim. That's another, when you release so many collaborations, so many collections, it isn't special anymore. It's expected, it's redundant, and you can't give enough thought to what you're actually releasing in these collections because you're releasing them every other month. I feel like what happened to Colourpop, like the beginning of the end, was they did that Sailor Moon collection and they saw how well that went. They saw how many times it sold out and they said, you know what? Let's find all these other licensed things that we can make these big, giant collections that are going to sell out within an hour and then keep restocking those instead of actually taking time to commit to the products that we're releasing. There is more money to be had in banking on the aesthetic and the packaging of something and the presentation and the marketing than there is on the actual makeup that they're putting into these collections. I've just about had it with this kind of marketing. I apologize for that. I got a little bit passionate, a little bit heated. Let's end on something slightly less offensive. This is something that I look at and I'm like, in a world where I had never-ending money, I would buy these. And these are the KVD Xo Lip Glosses. Y'all know that I reviewed the, they're a liquid lipstick, but they don't dry down matte. They're like the Patrick Ta lip creams, that kind of finish for a lipstick. Something that I absolutely fell in love with. Thought it was absolutely fantastic. These are glosses. Y'all know that your girl is very rarely a gloss person. I have a little bit of a gloss today just to keep this from looking dry, nasty, and crusty. But overall, I'm not someone, maybe it's because I wear these and long hair and wigs and lip gloss. But looking at these, it makes me happy. I think it's another good item for the company, which is why I would want to buy it. I'd be like, yes, I want to support this kind of behavior, not the behavioral nonsense of the eyeshadow palettes you've released in the past year. But that being said, I don't have money to burn. I have lip glosses that I don't use. As nice and as good as I think this is a move for the brand, I'm not going to be buying them because I don't need them. I would love to know if any of y'all get these or have tried them, if they're any kind of good, because maybe when there comes a day that I do have unlimited income, I would like to buy them. But for now, I just look at it and I feel a small swell of pride that they've released something that actually looks like a good product that's consistent with what they're trying to be. But I have to let that be my only thing and not buy them because I don't need them. This is the epitome of I don't need it, I'm not gonna buy it. And we're going to end on that note. In all honesty, for any of y'all who've made it this far, definitely let me know down below. When it comes to my future anti-hauls, I feel like I'm gonna care a little bit less about having to do and keep on track and be like, oh, well, I need to get this one out because this thing is relevant and this thing is relevant. Because there are some things that I'm going to be talking about in the next one I film that I didn't get to in this video that are going to be very, very outdated by the time that video goes up. But I've kind of reached the point of not caring, and I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about regardless of how new or interesting or hyped it is. You know, it'll be outdated, but I kind of don't care at this point. Let me know down below if you care or not, whether I talk about outdated things or I try to be more consistent with the newer stuff. There's just so much being released, and with me pre-filming and all the stuff that gets released, it's really hard to stay on track and be relevant. But I would love to hear what you all have to say about these products. If you have them, let me know, as well as something that you have anti-hauled recently for one reason or another. But thank you guys so much for watching. I love you, and as always, keep it real.